everybody. Welcome to Search the Scriptures. This is study number 2 in the Gospel of Mark, and I've been gone for a week at Prayer Summit. Well, actually just 4 days, but took a week off from doing the videos. Good to be back doing them. Sorry if you missed it. We are on study 22 of Mark, and that covers chapter number 10, verses 32 through 52, and there are 3 different sets of questions that we're going to try to answer with this study. The first comes from verses 32 through 34 and verse number 45. What new aspects of his suffering does Jesus introduce here? And why does he continue to stress this subject? And why were his disciples amazed and afraid? And what ought we to be? Second, what motives do you think were behind the request of James and John? And what was the meaning of Christ's reply to them? And do our own aims in life also reveal the same spiritual shallowness? And what is the governing principle of true Christian greatness? And the final question, what were the progressive steps which led Bartimaeus to the recovery of his sight? And what can we learn from this incident that will both guide and encourage us when trying to help those who are spiritually blind to find their way to Christ? Well, let's look at Mark chapter number 10, beginning with the 32nd verse and going all the way through the end of the chapter. 10:32, they were on their way up to Jerusalem with Jesus leading the way, and the disciples were astonished, while those who followed were afraid. And again he took the 12 aside and told them what was going to happen to him. We are going up to Jerusalem, he said, and the Son of Man will be betrayed to the chief priests and teachers of the law. They will condemn him to death and will hand him over to the Gentiles, who will mock him and spit on him, flog him, and kill him. 3 days later he will rise. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him. Teacher, they said, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. What do you want me to do for you? He asked. They replied, let one of us sit at your right and the other at your left in your glory. You don't know what you're asking, Jesus said. Can you drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? We can, they answered. And Jesus said to them, you will drink the cup that I drink and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with. But to sit at my right and my left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared. And when the 10 heard about this, they became indignant with James and John, and Jesus called them together and said, you know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be the slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Then they came to Jericho. As Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, that is the son of Timaeus, was sitting on the roadside begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stopped and said, call him. So they called to the blind man, cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you. Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. What do you want me to do for you? Jesus asked him. The blind man said, Rabbi, I want to see. Go, said Jesus, your faith has healed you. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road. Let's look at the first question from verses 32 through 34 and verse 45. What new aspects of his sufferings does Jesus introduce here? And why does he continue to stress this subject? And why were his disciples amazed and afraid? And what ought we to be? Well, Jesus lets us know that he will be mocked, he will be spit on, he will be flogged. And he continues to stress submission and servanthood, because it was key to entering the kingdom of heaven. Now, why were the disciples afraid? Well, who in their right mind wouldn't be afraid? Even Jesus prayed that the cup would pass him by. To know that following Christ is a sentence not only of earthly blessing and heavenly reward, but of earthly persecutions as well, well, that's no easy pill to swallow. It's only by constantly focusing on His all-surpassing glory that you and I are able to maintain the course when things really begin to get difficult in our lives. Second question, what motives do you think were behind the requests of James and John, and what was the meaning of Christ's reply to them? And do our own aims in life also reveal the same spiritual shallowness? And what is the governing principle of true Christian greatness? Well, James and John wanted position. At least there does seem to be some indication that they were seeking position in the kingdom of God, and not the kingdom of this earth, though. And it appears that Jesus was trying to actually talk them out of their request. Or at the very least, He was attempting to get them to think about the consequences of their request. The governing principle of true Christian greatness is humility and servanthood. Do I want to be considered great in the kingdom of heaven? Absolutely. Am I willing to pay the price in this life? Rarely. There are moments when I would do anything for the Lord, and then I have my Peter moments when I deny that I even hear Him. And that's probably the case with you as well. Last question, question 3, what were the progressive steps which led Bartimaeus to the recovery of his sight, and what can we learn from this incident that will both guide and encourage us when trying to help those who are spiritually blind to follow their way to Christ? Well, Bartimaeus recovered his sight because he was relentless in his pursuit of an audience with the Lord. The relentless pursuit of His presence, the presence of the Lord, is key to opening up the eyes of the spiritually blind that are crying out all around us. If you're not seeing all of the blessings and all the glory of the Lord, and your eyes are truly open to Him, keep relentlessly pursuing His presence, and the scales will fall from your eyes, and you will see His glory. I hope this study in Mark today has been a blessing to you. It's great to be back, and I look forward to doing this again for you tomorrow. God bless, and have a fantastic rest of your day.